One. Oh my God. 7:01. Oh, I'm late. Goodness. Okay, if everyone can take their seats, thank you. I'll let Helen make a cup of tea. Sorry, Helen. I just didn't realise what the time was. All good? Yep. Okay, thank you. So firstly, I'd like to welcome everyone here. I'd like to welcome the President of the RSL, Colin Wardrop, who's doing a deputation this evening. And I'd like to welcome staff, CEO, executive management team, and our minute taker, Susie, and of course, our elected members. So firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the land that we meet on tonight is the traditional lands for the Kaurna people, and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge the Kaurna people as the custodians of the Greater Adelaide region, and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still as important to the living Kaurna people today. So roll call, we have an apology from Deputy Mayor Shanks. He's unable to come this evening. I rang him earlier. And I think we've got, I don't know where Brian Sample is. Is he on leave of absence, is he? Okay, he's on leave, there's no leave of absence here. So Councillor Sample, when does he come back? Do we know? It's just that we need to get that right in the minutes.
The leave's already been granted.
Yes, I know that. However, when does he come back?
I have to check the minutes of the meeting that's granted that.
Okay.
I'll have to check the meeting where it's granted.
Yeah, so when did Brian put in his leave of absence? Wasn't IAS, it was a council meeting, wasn't it? It was a council meeting. It was a council meeting. Yeah. Last council meeting.
I believe it's to the 27th from memory.
27th he comes back? Okay.
To the 27th, I think it was from memory.
Okay. Yep. Okay, thank you. It's just that we need to have that leave of absence written in the minutes. Thank you. So there's no non-attendance and everyone else is here. So thank you, elected members. Public open, there's no non-attendance. Public open forum, I don't think there's anyone here. So we'll move straight on to deputations. Colin Wardrop, President, RSL, Gawler Sub-Branch, and he's talking about the Krupp field gun restoration, which is the subject of a motion on notice later in the agenda. Please come forward, Colin. We are sending you did say that we're sending those the pictures around via email. Sorry, what was that?
Yes, Mr. Wardrop advised he'll send a link through with the handout, and I'll distribute that to members because the photos are too large in the file size.
Yeah, okay. So thank you, Colin. You have the floor if you'd like to turn that on. Thank you.
Red light's on.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Mayor, and to the elected members present. I made a representation to both the Mayor and the Deputy Mayor about approximately 3 weeks ago in relation to the piece of significant history that belongs to the town at Pioneer Park, we all know as the gun, the 77mm Krupp gun. It has significant history to this town. There's 2 guns that were seeded through the Australian Trophy Committee back in 1920-21. They both arrived here and were dedicated in 1920 and 1921 by then Brigadier General Lean, who was Commissioner of Police. One was located at what they call Marketplace, where now Sports Power is, and one at the South Gawler Memorial. Over the years, and one of the critical thing we see for here is that they belong to the council, and because of the different council relationships, sometimes its repair and that did not go as well as it should have. So what we, spoke to the Mayor and the Deputy Mayor, was that we would take a lead on the restoration and preservation of that significant piece of Gawler's history. It will take a significant amount of work to do that. We only have one gun. The second gun, which was S445, was sold for scrap. Just to know that, I spoke to the Mayor and was tongue-in-cheek, that the council can be held accountable under the federal government for failing to adhere to the agreement of the committee back in 1920, is that it was not to be sold for scrap. It had to be, anyway, but that's by the by. But in saying that, what we don't want to see is that gun, that field gun sitting up there being wasted and then going away. We, as the RSL, with other interested people, are looking at working in partnership with the council to create a group that will restore and preserve Gawler's history. The main part of it is that we, as an organisation, want to engage with our community, through the federal government, by our service, recognition of our service, and the state government. When we do that, that means there's a lot of funding that can come through that. I've spoken to Matt Burnell 2 weeks ago, and with the funding that's there, it's a piece of history of significance where we can get funding upwards of $150,000. Not saying it's going to cost that amount of money, but we have access to those, to request those sorts of funds. In saying that, is that all we need from us, and take the lead with the council, and been speaking to the Cultural and Heritage Unit here with Jacinta Weiss and Adrian Brown, we've got the council already has an in-house research history capability, which then supports what we are doing with our restoration people that we already have through my connections in the Australian Army, through the Artillery Museum. So what we see in that space is that the government we go to the government, you ask the council to support us in a space of taking it down and engaging with our community. We don't see it costing the council anything of any significance at all. We want to see this as a community project whereby everyone owns the gun. We're doing the research also into how many people from 48 Battalion, which came from this area as well, who fought at Villers-Bretonneux, where the gun was captured on September 8 in 1918 on the Hindenburg Line, brought back, and their names will be significantly embellished around the gun itself, so that those people who have relatives that were there can trace their history back, can see that this is their family, this is their heritage, this is our cultural way of being. The gun is in a level of disrepair. The wheels aren't the right wheels. There's a number of other significant things that are wrong with it, but there is, in saying that, it's not something that can't be overcome. We have in our orbit a number of people that can rectify and resume and restore the gun to what it was originally. We have a vision as part of it is to put it in a place where it will be restored and preserved so that the weather conditions will not affect it in the future. So, and that will be part of our project costs to go forward. And in doing that, we want to see like a montage of photos of where it went from the Hindenburg line in 1918 all the way through to its restoration, and if we have photos of those family members that were in the 48th Battalion at that time, they're there. We create that significant part of history. There is a number of councils at the moment, Mount Gambier, Goyder, and northern areas, and Clare have already done this project, have done these projects with support from the community. So all I'm asking for is...
30 seconds, thank you.
Thank you. All I'm asking for from the council is endorsement for us to do this as a partnership, that the RSL takes the lead, and we will then work with council to create or recreate the history of that gun. And also, just in finishing, we will be supplying a handout which will be online for you to give you more history and understanding of where things are going. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Wardrop, President of the RSL Gawler Sub-Branch, talking about the Krupp Field gun restoration. Thank you, Colin. Okay, we'll move on. I don't think there's any other deputations, so declarations of interests. I'll start with you, Councillor Koch.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be declaring a conflict for 19.1 Norma Fibre Polishing Plant.
Yes, and the type of conflict?
It'll be material, and I'll be leaving the meeting when that presentation is provided.
Thank you. Anybody else? I'll start with you, Councillor White.
Thanks, Mayor Redmond. Yes, I'll also be declaring a material conflict for 19.1 and leaving the room.
Thank you very much. Councillor Solomon.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be declaring also a conflict of interest for 19.1 and I'll deal with it by leaving the room.
That's a material conflict? Thank you. Thank you. So we'll come to that when we get to that item. You'll each declare your conflict and describe how you deal with that conflict. Thank you. We don't have any adjourned items. We don't have any petitions. Confirmation of minutes. 26th of September 2023, Ordinary Council meeting. How do we wish to proceed, councillors? No, I'm not accepting a motion without notice tonight, no. Do you wish to move that way? Councillor Davies, do you wish to speak at all? No. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hughes. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Business arising from the minutes. It's not really from the minutes, it's actually Mayor's correspondence from the Audit Committee. It's not actually business arising from the minutes. It's correspondence to the Mayor. I think it's important to table this letter from the Chair of the Audit Committee, and that's in our papers this evening. So there is an officer's recommendation that receives and notes. Yes, you wish to move that way. Thank you, Councillor Hughes.
Yeah,
second, yes.
If I could speak as well.
Yes,
yep.
Sure.
Just briefly, I do recommend all councillors, if they can, do a term on the Audit Committee. It's a lot harder now with only limited spaces on the Audit Committee. And one of the reasons why there's limited spaces on the Audit Committee is that they want experts that actually have experience in accounting and business on these panels to then advise council. And we may find ourselves with most of our committees, and maybe in the future councils actually made up of members that have expertise in other areas And that's to bring up the actual standards and Joe, so that best practice is actually adhered to. So yeah, I highly recommend councillors can sit in the audience, listen to the debate, maybe, hopefully watch them online as well. But the Audit Committee do go through a lot of information and are really thorough. And the budget process that we went through earlier this year was a thorough process and until the end. Yeah, I don't think it's reasonable to expect audit committees to have to point out to councillors that they may not be following the correct way of going about things, and I think that's basically what this letter does point out, that the process and the end result was not correct. But yeah, I do think that it's really important, and that's why we have audit and risk committees as well. So thanks.
Yes, Mayor, I'm happy to second this, and I support my fellow elected members' words. I guess I just want to underline that one of the things that we're all elected on, there is this very strong expectation from our community that we'll be prudent financial managers. Over and above anything else we achieve as elected members, we need to ensure that we are prudential financial managers. So I look forward to this following budget cycle being rigorous, of course, but again, very restrained in what it tries to achieve. As we all know, we have a lot of requests on our plate for funding, and actually reducing our rate revenue is definitely not the way to go about being able to balance what we can achieve with the funds we have, the community's expectation, and still make sure that this council is in a very strong financial position. So I'm happy to second it.
Councillor Koch.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I'm happy to support this motion. I've been on the Audit Committee for many, many years, and I've actually learned a lot about finances. I mean, it was something I struggled at uni when I was studying, finances and balancing books and everything else. But this has given me more of an insight, and I think I understand it a lot more now. So if you get an opportunity, please go on to the Audit Committee. And also, we need to make sure that we have a surplus budget, because we need to drive down our debt, and that's the problem. And when you've got a deficit budget, you're pushing that debt out to future generations, which is the last thing you really want to do. Yeah, and essentially what I found is the finances in council tends to go like a sine wave, where you take on debt to do a big project, you get it down, then you can take debt on again and do another big program. Now, we've got big projects that we want to do. We can't do those if our debt level is too high, because there's a limit on how much we can actually borrow from the local government financial authority. There is a limit. It's not limitless. We can't borrow money till the cows come home. So we really have to be constrained in what we do so we have a sustainable budget. So I'm looking forward to the next budget cycle, and potentially we might have to claw back some of the rates that we foregoed this time round to actually get back to where potentially we should be, because the community actually wants a council that is financially responsible and sustainable. I think that ultimately that's where it sits, and we have to be very careful that we don't make decisions that are potentially quite politically appealing in the short term without looking at the long-term implications. So I'm happy to support this. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Councillor Lorna.
I also look forward to the new budgeting process going forwards. However, I still stand by the decision to, basically put the $379,500 below the line through the information that we got now, which we aren't typically allowed to discuss, sort of thing. So I believe that it is all, what am I trying to say here now? it is all relevant. We've looked at it as what it actually is and what's come back to us knowing now. We obviously didn't know enough information to make an informed decision. Well, quite a few of us sort of decided that as well. I am a little bit with a question here. Is an advisory committee can come back and make statements on to what a chamber's decision is? Is that correct? Is that what's happening here?
Yes, they can. They are able to do that, yes. They are able to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
They're independent members.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's about it I've got for now, thanks.
Thank you very much. Any other discussion? If not, Councillor Hughes, you happy for me to put that motion? I'll put that motion. All those in favour? All those against? It is carried. Thank you. Moving on to page 9. Division. Okay. All those in favour, please stand. I'll call your names out. All those in favour are Councillor Koch, Councillor White, Councillor Davies, Councillor Valalonga, Councillor Hughes, Councillor Solomon and Councillor Hennessy. Stay standing, please. And those against are Councillor Lorna. The motion is carried. Thank you. So now I'm on page 9. Greater Adelaide Regional Plan discussion paper submission. You happy to move that way?
Yeah, thanks to the staff for all their work on this quite extensive set of projects, really. I think we've had had several sessions to be able to get our heads around this, and I think that's been quite valuable.
Yes.
So I'm happy to support it.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Valalonga. Discussion? Councillor Hennessy.
Yes, I also support the amount of work and the extra information that has appeared, so I thank staff very much for that. As I mentioned in an email that went round, I'd actually like a little extra on... We've focused in this report now on the growth that has been predicted and has in fact occurred for Gawler. I think we would strengthen our argument if we also did a similar comparison for the state population. So as to prove that this isn't simply a Gawler situation. The state government over the last couple of these plans has gone very high in its expectation of population, which has then had roll-on effects in terms of expectations by developers and by landowners and by a whole range of people. If they are mindful of being more realistic on what actual growth is, then perhaps we won't have that set and we won't face unrealistic pressure if we're dealing with more accurate medium type of population growth. So I'm not sure how to amend this, but I would certainly ask that before this is returned to us in November council meeting for ratification, that perhaps that additional information could be added. Seek support for people from that, and perhaps even advice if that needs to be an amendment to the recommendation.
I might go to Andrew Goodsell for some comments. If you're finished, Councillor Hennessy. Yes, Mr Goodsell.
Thank you, through the chair. In regards to the request to do further modelling, I'm mindful that the interim response has to be provided to PLUS by the 6th of November, and the capacity of council and its technical skills and so forth to do so and come back to council prior to the 6th of November, well, there's just no available briefing opportunities to go to council on that. Ultimately, if we were to go to a November meeting, which I'm not recommending, but that's ultimately a matter for council to decide. I guess my hope was we would deal with this matter tonight. I'm not guaranteeing I could provide you the projections for that either. That's quite a bit of work to do to try and extrapolate some models.
I've got a question. The 300,000 houses, it was 300,000 houses, wasn't it? And which equates to a lot more people. Where did they get that figure from?
Well, they basically do their own internal modelling. The government does a top-down approach in terms of its model based on birth rates, mortality, in-migration or out-migration as well. They have, well, Plus has said they had no choice in terms of their work. They were given a directive from state government to go with a high projection. We've already said in our submission that we're going with a medium. We've also said, I think in our report, that I think it's in our submission to the Minister, that we'll use the medium projection for the 2046 growth framework. In practical terms, if you're looking at what's being said by government versus what we're thinking, the high growth projection talks about something in the order of 684 people per year coming into Gawler, which is, around 250 to 300 dwellings, roughly. And the medium projection is more like around 390 to 400 people. So it's a difference of about 200 people or about 80 dwellings a year. It's not an earth-shattering number, but even so, I think the history tells us that the high projection isn't very often right. I don't think you'd want to be planning around the low projection, because if we're trying to leverage infrastructure investment from state government, you're always better off planning ahead to make sure you can cope with that. For the last 12 months, we've actually had the high projection on the ground in terms of actual population growth. Whether that's likely to be an ongoing trend, probably not. So my suggestion to council would be, given we, I think, have tried to address the matters that were raised at the IES meeting in good faith, that we would proceed and get the interim submission in on the 6th. And unless there's a view that we need to materially change the report and the submission, given we've added 3 additional recommendations, we've now gone to 15, which addresses all the matters that have been raised, that there wouldn't be a great deal of benefit going to the meeting in November, because we're not going to have time to do further modelling anyway.
I know that when we had a discussion with elected members, with Plus and with the Commission, that the number of the 300,000 houses was raised by Jennifer Bonham, Dr. Jennifer Bonham, and she's quite a high-level demographer, and she wanted to know where they got their figures from, and they didn't answer that question. They did not answer that question. They ignored it, and I think that possibly they're not quite sure where they got that figure from. That's what it looks like to me. That's what it looks like to me. Yes, Mr. Goodsill.
Yeah, every year, in fact, I'm pretty sure in the last 6 months, the government provides a housing monitor looking at greenfield and infield development, and I think they basically extrapolate that with their demographers and say, well, based on what we think's happening. And I guess it's also linked to broader things such as the national migration rate as well, which has been bumped up in the last year or two, which all changes, I guess, those models. But yeah, I think the bottom line with the growth framework was that they felt that they had 200,000 lots supply and they needed an extra 100,000, most of which would come from the Northern Corridor. The other thing I should also add is from the meeting on Sunday, which I did attend, where Craig Holden attended with the community.
Yes.
I did also indicate, and perhaps this goes back to my point about why it would be desirable to come to a view generally, if we could tonight, that our priority really is to flesh out what the interurban break looks like and to work on the Northern Parkland. And as soon as we can get past tonight's meeting, ideally, I'll be trying to schedule meetings with the Renewal SA and with the Commission so that we can start spending the time we need to spend on those issues.
Would a question about the figure of 300,000 houses be put to Plus? And if they provide that information back, not that they can choose to, they don't have to, but I think a question to them is probably where Councillor Hennessy is coming from, and I think that it might be just a quick question, and we might get that information if they choose to provide that to us, and it might actually provide some useful data with their modelling. I think their modelling's wrong, but I don't think we're going to have 300,000 houses Just one more comment, Mr Goodsell?
Just to finalise on that, I'm more than happy to do that. If council were of the mind that that's the question they want posed, we can do that, and if we get any further feedback from the Commission,
Yes.
I can put that into the submission letter, which is attached to the agenda report.
Helpful, yeah. I think that might be quite helpful, and Councillor Hennessy is nodding her head, and I think she's in agreement with that. Now, Councillor Hughes, you had your hand up, and then Councillor Koch, I saw your hand as well.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask a question about whether the higher figure was actually helpful, which has already been answered, and I think it is. We need all the infrastructure we can get. We need lines on the map for where these major highways are going to take the traffic out of our main street and around Gawler. So, yes. Whether they're going to get to the Sturt Highway and things like that. So, yes. We do need these high figures, and I think it's always handy to plan high, medium and low, even though they may be guesstimates or however they've come with those figures. But I do think it's handy for us because we haven't really had a lot of infrastructure success. We'd like to get traffic to Tiver Road and things like that as well.
Yes, that's correct.
So
yes.
I do think we need the numbers. But yeah, I'm happy with the motion as well.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Koch, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I've just got a quick question.
Yes, yes.
In the previous 30-year plan, there was a split between infill and greenfield.
Yes.
Have we, and I think, was it 30-70 or 80?
Oh, it was 30-70, I think. 30-70.
So is that still the case? Are we going to have that split or not in this new...
I'll put that to Mr Goodsell. I'll put that to Mr Goodsell.
It's a good question.
Andrew.
It's a good question. Through the chair. I think there seems to be a perception in the discussion paper, and we don't know what the document's going to say next year, but it feels to me like they're moving away a little bit from the 70-30 in terms of the idea of the Northern Corridor, which would imply more greenfield. Equally, though, there's more reference in this document than perhaps the 2017 document about transit-orientated development. I know there's some thorny issues attached to how that gets delivered and market conditions and risk and those things we talked about in our report. So the answer is I'm not really sure whether it's 70-30, 60-40 or 80-20, but my gut feeling is it'll be below 70-30, I suspect.
Question?
The reason why I asked is because I want to reference the Infrastructure Victoria, who put out a report recently and talked about building compact cities. And what they were saying is that if you build compact cities and utilise the existing infrastructure, it's actually actually cheaper, it's more economically sound and environmentally more sound. And what they actually said, in short, the modelling from Victoria Independent Infrastructure Advisor shows that the state would be $43 billion better off by 2056 if it swapped its urban sprawl for more compact design in existing suburbs. So I'm just concerned that we're having more greenfield over infield. I know it's politically easier for governments to push greenfield onto your fringe councils, because it's much easier than trying to battle the well-to-do in town.
We're bigger than the footprint of London currently.
Yeah. So the well-to-do in town politically, it's harder. I can understand that, but my view of the world is that we should be having more compact cities than just continuing to sprawl. And I've said that over and over again. You just can't sprawl to Port Wakefield. You just can't. You should be having more compact cities. So I don't know whether we can put that into our submission or not, because obviously these guys have done the figures, and I'm sure it would be transposed to South Australia, surely.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you for those comments. Any other discussion? Councillor White.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, no, I just wanted to, I'm happy to support this motion. I think that staff have done a fantastic job in conveying communities' voices, particularly at the community forum evening we held a couple of months ago. I think the three key issues about the open space and the Northern Parklands, the growth investigations around Cuddler have got great synergy with our southern rural areas plan at the moment, which is great, and we've already discussed the high population projections. I did want to point out, actually, it was great to see it was talking about the lack of services in the north, educational, medical facilities. I think that was a strong theme.
We only have one MRI, and there's at least 10 or 15 in the eastern suburbs. Just saying.
Yes. So I thought that was fantastic. That was a big theme of the community's sentiment as well. So it was really great to see that in there. So yes, very, very happy to support this, and looking forward to seeing what happens next.
Thank you. Yep, Councillor Davies.
Yeah, so I think it's been good discussion. I think, whether we get there in the next 30 years or in the next 60 years or whatever, there's no scenario where the growth isn't going to come out into the north. They're not going to build into the ocean. It's much more of a pain to build out in the hills than it is to build out on flat land in the north. And, we can't put the genie back in the bottle there. So I think what's important is that when this stuff happens, we're able to advocate for the things that we need out of the growth that will happen, like parklands and all this kind of stuff. So again, congratulating the staff on a well done report, and happy to move the motion.
So the debate is closed. I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. 10.2, I'm on page 30 of our agenda. Football and Associated Sporting Clubs Future Infrastructure Needs Working Group, and that Council adopts the Football and Associated Sporting Clubs Future Infrastructure Needs Working Group terms of reference. You happy to move that way?
Yeah, just to say that this was quite a successful first meeting, I thought. It was mostly bureaucratic, getting the stuff like this like this out of the way, the terms of reference and that sort of thing. But I think it's been a good start, and looking forward to the next meeting.
Seconder, Councillor White. Any further discussion? If not, Councillor Kosh.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Look, I won't repeat what I've said before, but I just want to make sure that this doesn't become the priority when we have other activities. There's passive and recreation. This is quite active. We also have passive recreation in our town, and if you actually look at it, more people are involved in passive recreation than active recreation. So I just want to make sure that this doesn't dominate the budget cycles and everything else, that we're actually equitable in the way we allocate funds across the community to all the different spheres that people are involved in. And you only need to look at our regional health plan, where it actually highlights there the benefits of passive recreation for physical and mental health. So it's a balancing act. I know people are excited by it, but I just hope that we don't this doesn't overrun everything else that we have in our community. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. Any other discussion? If not, Councillor Davies, you happy for me to put that motion? Thank you. I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. .3, and I'm on page 34 of our agenda, Local Government Infrastructure Partnership Program Grant Variation. You happy to move that way, Councillor Hughes? Do you wish to speak at all?
No, it's pretty straightforward, but just hoping we get this done as soon as possible, because we've got the sports waiting to use it. This is just extending the date a bit further, but the sports are really keen on this. It's a fantastic opportunity. It's a good process. It's just everyone's fully booked out, so it is hard to actually get things done. But we've got work going on now, and just hopefully it gets finished as soon as possible.
Seconder, Councillor Lorna, thank you. Do you wish to speak at all? No? Thank you. Any further discussion? If not, David, Councillor Hughes, are you happy for me to put that motion? I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. .4, 10.4, 4, which is our monthly finance report, which is on page 37. Monthly finance report, I'll take it as read. Happy to move that way. Councillor Hughes, do I have a seconder? Councillor White. If there's no further discussion, I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. (10.5) Council operating hours, Christmas and New Year. Had a quick look through these, and Councillor, are you happy to move that way, Councillor Hennessy? Councillor Vallelonga seconded. Any discussion, Councillor? Do you wish to speak at all? Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, thanks very much to staff. It's great to see that our service areas within council are open on mostly, with a couple of exceptions, but we are only closing on public holiday. I think on behalf of the community, I'd like to thank the staff for that. That shows a great customer service attitude. People still require our services during the Christmas period, and for some it's even more important. Christmas can be quite a lonely and distressing time for many people, and having facilities like the pool, the library and whatever open and available certainly would ease some of that tension at that time. So again, thank you to the staff for making sure that they are here and providing services to our community.
So seconded by Councillor Vallelonga. Any discussion, Councillor Hughes?
Yeah, I'd just like to second what Councillor Hennessy said. It's really important that these, especially the libraries, are open. A lot of some councils do close, and I think it's really important that we are open. We do have some buildings open over Christmas because it can be fraught for some people. So it is a really good service, and thanks to staff and all for doing those shifts over that time.
Yeah, I think I echo those comments. I think congratulations to staff for keeping council services open for people who need it, and a lot of people do need it in the Gawler community, and they also need to access the Civic Centre for the very clean toilets that are the best toilets in Gawler. Absolutely. Well, lots of people use them. They're coming in all of the time to use the bathroom, and I think so, and I think it's really important that we keep these services open. So yeah, thank you to staff. Any other discussion? If not, I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. So now I'm on information reports. We have 3. We've got Council's Preparedness for Emergencies, Civic Centre Quarterly Update, Business Innovation Hub. We can move them on block, and you can talk about any of them. Are you happy to move on block? And you're happy? Do you wish to speak at all? Yes.
I'm happy to move them on block. I particularly would like to thank Wendy Young for the report on preparedness for emergencies. I think we would agree that we've been given an enormous amount of detail, but very much has helped our understanding of where council's role is in various emergencies, what different sections of council will be doing, the preparation that's put in, the community involvement and the community upskilling that staff are involved with, and again, I just think it bodes well, because we are likely to have a particularly challenging year if we around this table, as well as our community, are able to understand our role. So thank you.
Seconder, Councillor White. Do you wish to speak?
Yeah, just to echo Councillor Hennessy's words, thanks, Mayor. I think very, very detailed report from Ms Young, and I hope that this season we don't need to use it. However, all the signs are looking like we are in for a bit of a bushfire season.
We are in for a bushfire season.
Yes, and I agree, just to understand our role as elected members, understand council's role, but also for us to share this within our networks around the community so everyone understands what is expected prior to an emergency occurring, I think is really, really important. So yes, just echoing what Councillor Hennessy said and thanking staff for the report.
Councillor Davies.
Yeah, so on 11.2, the Civic Centre update, I'd like to first give a shout out to this space as a function venue because I went along to the South Gawler Club Awards nights here and it was really good. They were all very impressed and wanting to come back again because it was really well run and really well organised and and congratulations to staff who are involved with it. Sam Delina, who, as I understand, maybe... Sorry? Ergang, sorry. Ergang. Sorry, Sam Delina's already moved on. Sam Delina. Close enough. And also the... let's see, so the youth space, there were some great programs. Of particular interest to me was the Sabre Academy, where you could do martial arts training with lightsabers. If they offer that for adults, let me know, and I might want to come along. The Gawler Youth Band has been doing really well. They've got a couple more events booked through the rest of the year. I just think in general and the tertiary hub, I think in general we've got a lot of great projects coming out at the moment.
Thank you. Councillor Koch?
Yeah, I just want to talk about 11.1, Council Preparedness for Emergency. I just want to talk about flooding, because there wasn't a lot in here about flooding. But fairly soon, this council will need to think about what the GRMFA has been working on. There's a couple of major projects that could be implemented we need to decide on. And also one of the things that potentially could happen is having a public awareness program each year, similar to fire awareness, but getting people prepared for flood. Yeah. So that's getting ready for it. Because if you actually do that, you actually save a lot of damage and cost.
Are they going to do that?
Well, this will come to our council in probably next year, I suppose, end of this year, next year, probably January, where the options will come to council. There is a pretty hefty price tag, but anyway, so a lot of it will be around community awareness and potentially even talking to producers out in the Virginia. Well, maybe you should maybe have spread your risk by having different properties. So if there's a flood, part of your property is flooded, not the another half. So you're sort of diversifying the risk. So there's a whole range of strategies because they're finding that by public education, is actually probably the most cost-effective way to mitigate some of the risks. So that'll come to council soonish, and that should be part of our emergency, how we deal with emergencies. So I would like to see a long-term public awareness program in the community. The only problem is that you do get turnover of people out in that area, and also English is potentially not their first language. So there's a bit of effort, you can do it. So anyway, that'll come to council, but just be aware that flooding is another emergency we need to deal with, more than just putting up signs and shutting floodways.
Thank you for those comments.
Yep.
Okay, any other discussion? If not, Councillor Hennessy, I'm going to put this motion. Are you happy for that? I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. All those, yes, it's carried unanimously. Thank you. So now I'm on page 84, item 12, recommendations from committees. And we start with the recommendations from the Infrastructure and Environmental Services Committee, held on the 10th of October. So we have a strategy overview, and we're being asked to adopt the recommendation from the IES committee. Moved by Councillor Hennessy, seconded by Councillor Davies. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Greater Adelaide Regional, we've done that. We won't do that again because that's come up tonight, and we've done that. Southern Rural Areas discussion paper. Recommendation, we adopt the recommendation. Yes, thank you, Councillor Hennessy. Moved by Councillor Hennessy, seconded by Councillor Lorna. Any discussion? If not, you want to make a comment?
Just to again thank staff for their work with this, and very much looking forward to the community consultation with this early next year.
Thank you. If there's no further discussion, I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. All those against, it is carried. Pioneer Park Heritage Wall progress update. Moved by Councillor Davies. Yes, and I'd like a seconder if possible. Councillor Vallelonga, thank you very much. Yes.
Yeah, look, just to say, this was an extremely detailed report. Lots of options. I think we're doing our best here. I mean, I, along with everyone else, would like to see the costs down. But aside from that, I think we've come with some good options for what we're able to do.
Thank you. If there's no further discussion, I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. Thank you. Over the page, Regional Development South Australia Infrastructure Prioritisation. Who'd like to move this? We adopt the recommendation. Thank you, Councillor Davies. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Lorna, thank you very much. Any discussion? Yes?
Yeah, just a minor note that this is a slightly different motion than the one at the IES, just a typo changed. Instead of Sunnyside, it now says Sunnydale.
Yeah, that's right. Where's the Sunnydale? Oh, point 1. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Okay. Have I got? Okay. Can you just move up, please, Susie? So we've got a mover and a seconder. If there's no further discussion, I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Carlton Road Playground, removal of trees. Notes the tree removal report. So we're noting it. You happy to move that way, Councillor Hughes? Seconded by Councillor Vallelonga. Yes? Councillor Davies.
Just another spelling nitpick, but is that meant to be Carlton Road?
It's Calton. There's no R in Carlton. Calton. So if we can change that. Thank you, Susie. Thank you for that. Carlton, yeah. Because, yes, Mrs. Carlton owned the Old Spot Hotel. Yes. So there's no R. Anyway, we've got a mover and a seconder. I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. So now we move on to recommendations from the Gawler Heritage Collection Committee held on the 12th of October. So motions made under delegated authority for noting. So that's 12.2, notes the adopted motions from the Gawler Heritage Collection Committee made under delegated authority, notes the Gawler Heritage Collection Inquiries October 2023 update report, moved by Councillor Hennessy, seconded by Councillor Vallelonga. I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. Thank you. 12.2.1, request for permission to publish. Thank you, Councillor Davies. Do I have a second to Councillor Koch? I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. Request for permission to publish Dead Man's Path poster. Adopts the recommendation. You moved by Councillor Koch, seconded by Councillor Hughes. I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Carried unanimously. Over the page. Request for permission to publish Gawler Catholic Parish. I'm a member of this Catholic. I declare a general conflict. I will stay in the room and I will not participate in the debate. You move that way, Councillor Davies. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Vallelonga. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Request for permission to publish Finch testimonial and photograph. Moved by Councillor Hennessy, seconded by Councillor Koch. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. External bodies reports, minutes of internal and external bodies. The Council notes the minutes of the Football and Associated Sporting Clubs Future Infrastructure Needs Working Group meeting on the 28th of September, moved by Councillor Vallelonga, seconded by Councillor White. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. We have no questions on notice. Questions without notice? Questions without notice? If there's any, okay, we're going to move on. Motions on notice. So, Councillor Davies, do you want to present your motion?
Yeah, presenting this on behalf of the Deputy Mayor who's not here. Again, thanks to Mr. Colin Wardrop for his deputation. This is another heritage item that it would be great to see getting restored.
Yes, I think, Colin, you mentioned that you met with both myself and the Deputy Mayor and I think Michael Bombardieri and who else was in the room? Somebody else was in the room, I can't remember, but it was a very productive meeting and this motion came out of that meeting. Yes, very good. Do I have a second, Councillor Lorna? Any further discussion, Councillor Hennessy?
Yes, Mayor, I'm going to support this motion. It's great to see that we've got yet another community driven restoration project of one of our significant items. I'm very much aware from my involvement with the Heritage Collection and the Council working group on that already a lot of research, as Colin said, has been provided. I think it's going to make a particularly interesting story, and I think in terms of seeking funding, being able to put the story behind how that gun ends up being one of our war memorial will be quite unique, as it turns out. Again, we're blessed with the fact that we've got a lot of original information. We can tell the story from the time it arrived in Gawler to where it is today. And I look forward to hearing from staff how we can progress on this, including, of course, going out and seeking the funding. It is great to hear that we can, through the RSL's contacts, be able to tap into some significant funding because, as I said before, we have a major call on our budget as we go forward, but getting a whole group of different people involved in this, I think, is the way to protect this really valuable part of our history. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Koch.
Yeah, look, I'm happy to support this as well, and I want to thank Mr. Wooldrow for coming and explaining about the gun. I had some inkling about it, I had some knowledge about it from another person from the Heritage Committee who told me a bit about the wheels and et cetera, but now that it's much clearer now exactly, the importance of it, and the fact that it's going to be a community-driven restoration program, I think it's fantastic, and I'm looking forward to seeing the outcomes. Brilliant.
Thank you. Any other discussion? No. Councillor Davies, you happy for me to put them? Oh, sorry, Councillor Hughes, I saw your hand.
I'm supporting the motion. I do think the report back might have a few maybe a few options, because a complete restoration, including housing the gun in a weatherproof, could end up being quite a huge expense. And quite often artillery pieces are restored to a certain level, so people can still sort of more or less touch them, but if things like sights and things like that are left on it, then it would have to be secured. But it depends on the level of restoration, and I'm all for restoration, but having been involved with the War Memorial, the costings for that just kept going up and up and up, and it was a very expensive process for the council, which I think we footed. We did do some, we did get some grants, but it was a huge expense. I mean, and some of us personally put significant donations into it as well, but
that's right.
I think using local apprentices and different processes which are available and out there, it has been done a number of times and is really successful. My only concern would be, if you're taking this back to as original condition, it really then needs more or less a museum to house it in. I mean, in Clare, they've built their own building for the Light Horse Memorial next to the Oval, which is quite successful. It's got a glass front to it and everything else, but to actually build something like that would be quite costly, and plus would be putting it in Pioneer Park or something like that as well. So it has been done, and things have been restored and to a really high standard, but then they need to be housed in museum-like conditions as well. So that would then mean that maybe the gun may have to be moved somewhere else as well. So, but I think the report back, I think it would be handy to sort of look at all those costings and sort of some of the options, because in some states where they have done these restorations before, they haven't gone the full. It's what will be weatherproof and things like that, but whether you go to that museum standard as well. I think there's pluses and minuses to that as well, but it'd be good to get the report and look at all the options. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other discussion? If not, Councillor Davies, you happy for me to put that motion? Yep. I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. Right, so you're withdrawing your motion without notice? Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Hennessy. Council member attendance, any other motions without notice? No? Okay. Council member attendances. Yep. Councillor Davies.
In particular, I thought I'd shout out the launch of our fantastic new mural in the Civic Centre, which that went really well. Everyone I talked to has had nothing but good things to say about the mural, and so I think it's definitely been a great investment and a great improvement for our Civic Centre.
I think you're right. I think it looks fantastic. It's really colourful, and it showcases our biodiversity, which is really fantastic. I might jump in, and I went to the Catholic Church's 125th and 175th anniversary on the same day. And that was a really wonderful experience. They had a cake, they had lots of different foods from different parts of the world, because the Gawler Catholic Parish is quite biodiverse now, and the food is quite amazing. it was a wonderful service, a wonderful mass, and and they had musical talent after the service as well. So it was actually rather good. I also went to the Limekiln Park playground informal community feedback, which quite a number of, it's a really well-used playground, and I think 30 or 40 people came and provided their feedback on what they wanted. They could have 10 points, and they could picture, they had pictures, and it was really well done by staff. I'd like to congratulate staff on that. People really picked and chose what they'd like in that playground. And we also went to the Davies Street community workshop, which is on the corner of Davies Street and Princess Street, which is a drain, which is a participatory budget item. And I thought that, and there were a number of people that came and provided their feedback and were willing to help look after that space. So that actually went really, really, really well. And then later that evening, I think it was the 15th of October, I went to the RSL end of year dinner with Colin, and that was exciting as well. That went really, really well at Nixon's, and it just goes to show just how many community groups we have in Gawler, and just how many people get involved in all of these activities. And it was quite a privilege to go to the RSL dinner, and I'd like to thank Colin for that invitation. I'd also like to say that I went to Melbourne to visit family on the weekend, and I went to the Paul McCartney concert. It was absolutely magnificent. Absolutely magnificent. So, yes, we had a wonderful time with family, and we went to the South Melbourne markets, and we went to a jazz festival on Saturday, and then we went to the Paul McCartney concert. So it was absolutely fantastic. So sometimes it's good to have a bit of R&R and get away, and I think that's good for our mental health, it's good for our health and well-being, and it's a good balance to being community representatives, and I think that we should all just do that every now and again. So that's all for me. Any other events that people went to? No? Okay. No? Okay. I think we shall move. We might have a break, and we'll just stretch our legs, go to the bathroom, and et cetera, and we'll come back at 8:20. Thank you, everyone. Okay. Right. So we're moving on to confidential reports. And we have a recommendation to go into confidence. Do you want to declare your conflicts and leave the room? So we can deal with that first. So firstly, Councillor Koch, and then I'll go to Councillor White, and then I'll go to Councillor Solomon.
Mayor, I wish to declare a material conflict for this item.
Yes.
In Norma Fibre Polishing Plant, because I am a board member and I'll be leaving the meeting for this item.
Thank you
and
very
I'll
much.
put my paperwork and I'll pass it over.
Yes, thank you. Councillor White?
Thanks, Mayor. Yes, I'll also be declaring a material conflict in 19.1 as I'm a deputy board member. I will be leaving the chamber, however, I will remain in the chamber for the presentation, and then before the debate, I'll leave the chamber.
So you're remaining in the chamber for the presentation?
For the presentation,
You're
yes.
going to ask questions?
No, I will not participate in the
thank you.
discussion.
Thank you very much. Councillor Solomon?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll also declare a material conflict of interest for item 19.1, and I'll deal with this by leaving the room for the discussion/debate and voting, though I will remain in the chamber for the presentation, which I believe is consistent with the governance advice which we received.
Yes.
Yes.
And will you be participating in that presentation?
I'll not be participating in any way or asking any questions.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I need somebody to move the officer's recommendation so we can go into confidence. Councillor Hennessy, do you wish to explain why we're going into confidence?
Yes, we are going to go into confidence specifically because Norma has requested.
There's 3 people sitting down there. We've only got 2 names. We've got Toby Toulette, which is you, Daniel Dunn, Daniel, and who's the other person? Oh, right, okay. I didn't look there. I only looked here. Okay. And you're staying in as well, Jack? You're going to stay in? So we need Jack. Oh, right. Okay. Okay. Yeah, he's not written down here. So, okay. Have we got a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Ballalonga.
Would you like me to explain why we're going into confidence?
Yeah,
okay.
I just needed to get.
Sure.
I needed to get the correct people written so that we don't lose that opportunity, Councillor Hennessy.
Okay.
So yes, you can explain.
Okay,
why.
so at Norma's request, we're going to go into confidence because the information of the disclosure which would provided on a confidential would be basis to or from a range of different people and would on balance be contrary to the public interest.
So it's confidential basis Minister of the Crown?
Minister of the Crown, yes.
Okay, thank you. And it's seconded by Councillor Ballalonga. I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. Thank you.